What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Happy to be with you, breaking down another golf tournament this week. We had a really interesting week last week with the match play and the event, the Corrales double-barreled activity there last week. So that was fun, particularly having the second event after my match play lineups were largely dead after the first couple of days, as tends to be the case. But it was still a fun match play. Got Scotty Scheffler, Billy Horschel battling out there on Sunday afternoon, and Billy Horschel coming down with the winning title there. And it was only one of the top 16 seeds, I believe, that advanced out of group play. And if you would have bet all the lowest seeded guys to win their groups, you would have turned a profit of like 27 units or something ridiculous like that. But that's the nature of the unpredictability of match play. We'll recap that here quickly before we move into this week's Valero Texas Open. I am Justin Van Zuiden. I will be hosting the show as usual for you. We'll bring in my two wonderful co-hosts. As always, we'll start with Mr. Notorious Derek Farnsworth on one side. Noto, what's going on?
Yeah, not much. A little frustrated after last week. I was looking so good after the second round of the WGC. Had a chance to get all six guys through, and then Answer kind of blew it there against Hovland, lost in the playoff, and then Cantlay just got steamrolled by Hideki, the only good round he's had in months, and then he lost in the playoff. So ended up being a disappointing week, but I'm starting to really like the match play for DFS and for betting. I just bet pretty much half the matchups every day and had a great time sweating those out. And then the Corrales was pretty good, but I forgot to bet Joel Damon. I had him as a core play and bet everyone else in my article, but I forgot to put it outright on Damon. So good week overall, but a little bit, felt like I left a little bit on the table at least.
Well, a new week awaits, and we're all saving our great weeks for the Masters next week. So we'll hold that off, or maybe this week. This week would be fine too. But we'll bring in Mr. Tyler Tamboline as well. Tambo, what's going on?
What's happening? I'm certainly looking for a great week, any week. I feel like Ricky Fowler for this week. I'll take anything. Here the Masters is next week, sure, but let's get this after last week. I've had some good weeks leading up, but last week was all built nicely, some good game theory applied. But to Noto's point, that's how I felt. It was Neiman, Answer, Henley, all these guys that were on the cusp of doing something and just couldn't get it done. And then if you got one lineup where you had Cantlay, it's like you said, you got Matsuyama running over him in the final part of the group. So a lot of that was frustrating. And then for my bets last week, the guys I absolutely loved was the Battle of Spain. We talked about it. Rahm, Sergio, both are chugging away from their opposite sides of the board. I bet them both, got them everywhere in my lineups. And I did have one lineup that ended up having like one of the last 12 or something once Perez got through that had a chance at the final four. The problem was the other three were all losing. So that one ended up not being the one or anywhere near the one. And so overall, not the greatest week, but I'm with Noto. I love the format. I didn't love, it's been talked, we don't need to beat this one down, but I just, if it does, and when you only get one guy, like you mentioned, Rahm, the 3 seed, and then even Fleetwood was the only other guy outside the 30th or worst to the down to 64, him being the 21 seed. It certainly is a little bit of a challenge to get us excited or hyped on Sunday. I think they were very lucky that they got sort of the college battle of Florida versus Texas with Scheffler versus Horschel. That could have been even more of a snoozer if you had things break out a little bit differently. So overall, fun week, but not the best DFS week for me, and excited to talk about the Valero Texas Open.
Are you saying that Kuchar versus Victor Perez in the finals wouldn't have had the same the same appeal?
It was bad.
It was, but they are fun individual matchups to bet. Just watching the head-to-head play, and it's just interesting to see how all that plays out. I had a pretty good week with that, betting some of those matchups, though I did like Hovland a lot, and that did not pan out. But again, unpredictable nature of the match play game, and certainly is fun to follow along with. And then the secondary event down, the Corrales, Joel Damon ends up getting his first career win and a saved bucket hat from flying into the water there. His caddy went and grabbed it as they were taking photos afterwards in the heavy winds. The bucket hat blew off, but was saved by the end of the day. And Damon said he was not going to be shy about celebrating afterwards. So we'll see the literal hangover effect, how it happens with him. He's in the field this week. But any other takeaways from last week, either from the match play or from the Corrales there for you, Tambo?
Love the Joel Damon win. I mean, I spoke enough on match play, but I love to see something like that. I compare it all the time with DFS. Playing DFS semi-professionally, professionally versus professional golfers who want to, even if it, like everyone says with Joel Damon, he's just in it for the money. It didn't really look like it with that celebration, but at the same time, when you win, it gives you the extension to be able to play for a lot more money. So that's sort of the same thing. We're always looking for that breakout score, trying to find one of these big hits so we can just continue on and sort of keep our tour card, if you will, and get into the next round of big events. We're playing in qualifiers to trying to get into, the 44 at the Masters. Everyone's sort of on that same playing field where they have that opportunity as ways to get in. We just have to take different paths. Maybe a smaller qualifier is like a Corn Ferry Tour where you win that and that can help you get some status. Or, we're playing in a PGA regular event trying to get into a major event. So I love to see something like that. Joel Damon is an extremely likable guy. Awesome Twitter follow. His caddy's hilarious. There's just so many good things. So good things happen to good people. Definitely love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Good win for him. And now we get to break down the Valero Texas Open this week, and a pretty underwhelming field. Not surprising, the week before a major. We didn't have this event last year, so data points are a little bit scarce from recent history. And you look at the field, and it's a little bit of shock when you see the names at the top this week. But hey, everybody's playing with the same deck of cards as usual. So. No other takeaways for last week for you. Otherwise, we can start digging into the venue this week.
I was just going to say, if you didn't see the Joel Damon interview afterwards, pretty cool. Talking about how Gino, his caddy, talked him into, playing on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he had an 8-month-old at home, and he left him because he believed in Joel. And, his wife was, cheering him on the whole time. He was grinding the mini tours, and he's a guy that likes to let loose too. I remember we talked about this on this show. He tried the White Claw challenge where you drink 24 in one sitting, and he got to 23, and then his wife cut him off. So maybe he'll get there this week.
He got the little extra boost to get that 24th now. Be good to go. All right. Why don't you stick with it and start talking about the course this week?
Yeah, TBC San Antonio. It should be a fairly difficult test. Looks like the wind is going to be up, especially on Thursday. So definitely check the weather on Wednesday night to see if there is going to be a tee time edge. I think this was one of the events where there was like an extreme wind difference between the two waves. So definitely something I'm going to be monitoring.
It was about 5 years ago. I think there was like a 3-stroke edge, and just generally here with the way the wind blows in Texas this time of year, there often is an edge one way or the other. Maybe not as extreme as it was that one year, but that was kind of the event that got weather edges in golf kind of on the map was here. So yeah, there's sometimes an edge here.
Yeah, and these things do tend to be overblown a little bit as well. So might be some merit to making a couple stacks the opposite side of the one you think is going to have the better weather, just because, in case it flips or something like that, you never know. But par 72, close to 7,500 yards. There are four par fives, but they are pretty long. A lot of the golfers will turn these into 3-shot holes. But I do think the driver is going to be important. We're going to see a lot of guys taking out the big stick this week. So I'm putting edge to distance over accuracy. Definitely think you want to be a good ball striker. And these greens are really tough to hit. So especially in the wind, it's going to be a lot of scrambling opportunities. So I'm basically just looking at stroke skating tee to green. I don't mind taking some chances with some bad putters. If you are looking at putting splits, they are Bermuda. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I think the winning score is probably going to be low to mid teens, just depending on the wind.
All right, Tambo, what are you looking at this week?
A lot of the same what Noto said. I think for me, more of the recent form factor, just what we've seen. What have you done for me lately has been important and something we just see continuously. It's a tougher course. I want guys that are playing well. The wind is obviously a bigger factor. To Noto's point, he mentioned it. We'll keep watching that as the week goes on. Talk about it more tomorrow night on my Wednesday show about building some wave stacks and whatnot. Certainly looks like there may be some edges there. As far as stats go, it's sort of the same thing. I know these greens are pretty difficult to hit, so that's approach play is what's done well here the last couple of years. But at the same time, I think it won't hurt to have a pretty good around the green game, have some good hands, and be able to make some putts. So, it can alleviate or leave out some of the putting stats. At the same time, if you are a good putter, that can only help you more, especially if you've got a good around the green game. And there's a couple guys like that I'm targeting this week that we'll talk about when we get into it.
Yeah, this is the time of year where DFS gets going pretty hot and heavy. We've got a lot of, I see Devin talking in the chat about, we've got a longer overlap season with hoops and baseball this year. And I know we started last year because of the way the sports calendar all worked out, kind of having people specialize in one or the other as opposed to trying to handle both hoops and baseball. Noto, what's your calendar look like? Are you sticking to hoops? Are you moving to MLB? What are you working on here as we get kick started with baseball?
Yeah, no grind down for me this year for baseball. So I'm pretty pumped for that. And I don't think I'm going to be doing any baseball content until NBA ends. So just sticking to my weekly routine right now. I'm kind of pumped for it.
Yeah, it's a switch to MLB for me, which I am fine with. NBA burns me out this time of year. It's I'm ready for baseball, and that's my passion. So anyway, we'll see. We'll have two sports going full bore, and NHL still going strong as well. So good time to check out Rotogrinders Premium if you're not a subscriber. Tambo mentioned he has a Wednesday show where it kind of breaks down lineup HQ. And some of our, tips and tricks with that, with a special guest. We kind of rotate the second host on that show every other Wednesday night. Sometimes it's Noto, sometimes it's me. We've got a nice plethora of guests on with Tambo on that show Wednesday nights. Noto posts his model to kind of break down the golfers. So plenty of good stuff. Check out Rotogrinders Premium. And usually during the show, we give away a free weekly pass with a special golfer selection. We'll see if we can maybe do that later in the show with one of our favorite values. And last week it was Eric Van Rooyen who almost got it done and made a deep run there. So it wasn't too bad, all things considered, for his salary. But so we'll see if we can pick a winner this week as well. All right, let's start breaking down the field. Obviously, after pricing was originally out on at least most of the sites, Dustin Johnson withdrew, so we don't have quite as many 10K plus options this week, but let's go ahead and start to break down some of those names at the top. You got Spieth in the field this week, Finau, Scheffler with a potential fatigue factor, but Tambo, how are you handling the top 4 or 5 this week?
I like Finau. So I was, once the DJ thing happened, I guess you got to sort of make some decisions. I found some value plays that I like. So if I'm picking from up here right now, it looks like we've got Finau and Spieth at the same ownership. Certainly pretty easy for me when it comes down to that. I'm going to play the guy that I want to play, and that's Finau. I don't know. Maybe we see something from him here. It's been so, before the last couple events, we've seen quite a bit out of him and then just fell off a little. This would be a good time to pick it back up. The thing about Spieth that all I can keep thinking about, this is just, sort of a bias, or I guess it's one of those things you're used to from playing so much DFS, is he either crushes this week and then destroys dreams at the Masters next week, or he sucks this week and then people don't necessarily go back to him as much. They always play him at the Masters, but not as much. And then he ends up doing well. That's sort of how I always see this breaking down. But I like Finau, and I actually like Matsuyama. I do like Matsuyama a little bit here, just because you talked about that, the first round in a while there, Noto. You're definitely right with that. But it's kind of like our Sunday golfer that has a good round type thing. Got to feel pretty good just mowing down Patrick Cantlay like that, coming out, had nothing else to prove really besides that. And he's got the game, and ball strikers can do quite well here, and that's what he is. So as long as he's putting it in the green, giving himself those opportunities, he'd be sort of the opposite effect. But he does have a pretty good around the green game, and it just comes down to the putter. So for someone with sort of a complete game at 10.1K, it looks like it's going to be the lowest owned, 18%. Or no, sorry, 10% here, even less. So yeah, I'm definitely got a little bit of interest in Matsuyama, but Finau would be my guy right at the top, going up top.
All right, Noto, what are you thinking at the top here?
Yeah, I'm thinking fade the whole range when it comes to my main lineup. I'm just not too interested in anybody. You mentioned Scheffler. I think he played 122 holes over those 5 days, tied with Horschel for the most. So I'm worried about that a little bit. Obviously, went to Texas, so you got that ankle going. He's a pretty good course fit as well, but do worry about fatigue a little bit. Hideki, I just haven't seen enough from him. I like playing Hideki when he's 7-8K in strong fields rather than when he's a favorite in weak fields. So I'm going to be off of Hideki as well. Finau, I can get behind Finau a little bit, but I really like him next week, so I don't want him to play all that well this week. And then kind of the same thing for Spieth too. The thing with Spieth, he's gained strokes on approach in 25 of his last 27 rounds, which is pretty incredible. For the longest time, he was just getting lucky with the short game, and now the irons have been hot, over the last couple months. So I could see Spieth playing well this week and parlaying it into really high ownership next week, which is kind of not what I want to see happen. But if I'm ranking the top guys, I'll go Finau, Spieth, and then the other two tied last.
So as I put in my GPP article this week, the pig that you see flying outside your front door right now was me putting Jordan Spieth in my article this week.
Oh, I like it.
I tried to think back and kind of look back, and obviously contest data gets, deleted after a while, but I think I've only played him twice in the last 3 years. And it scares me to like, okay, now all of a sudden here I am on Spieth and I'm on him when he's 10-7, it feels wrong, but it's the point that, Noto mentioned that the iron play has gotten better. He is from Texas. He had the crowd behind him last week. He was smiling at the match play, and, he just looks like a different golfer right now. And it's just one of those spots where I think I'm one of those that sometimes can be pretty stubborn about getting back on guys when they've turned things around. And I don't think that's fair to Spieth given the way that he's played. So, I'll be on him in GPPs this week. I certainly agree that I don't think you have to play anybody from this range. There's risk factors with everybody the week before a major, or whether it's form with somebody like Matsuyama or fatigue with Scheffler, which I share those, concerns there, to where, I don't really think the opportunity cost is all that high. So I will have Spieth in my GPP pool this week. Just, for old time's sake, we'll see what he can do. But I'm nervous about it. I'm afraid the 1 week I get on board, he's just going to play like garbage, but that's all right. We'll see how it goes. Other thoughts, Tambo, on that top range from you? Otherwise, you can start going into the 9Ks if you want.
Yeah, I'll do both real quick just to circle back. So, I put in the expert survey underweight on Spieth. So just to talk about that, like I'm saying, I'm with Noto. I don't really like Scheffler at all after thinking about all the stuff that went through there with last week. He had the fans on his side, but we saw even Billy Horschel, who they couldn't stop talking about how fit he was, having to stretch it out on like hole 3 or 4, and then they had to play even more holes. So not really feeling that for Scheffler. It's a pretty good week for him. Makes out with a pretty nice paycheck, basically a win on tour at a regular season event almost. So I'm okay going off of that. But one thing I'll say to Noto's point is and I never play Hideki over 10K. I just like the fact that he's 10%. I think there's some ideas that we could play with here, but going into this next range, this is where I was at talking with Kenny yesterday and where I'm basically making my stands of all the overweight stances are going to come through the 9 and the 8K range for me. I like quite a few guys here. I'll leave answer for you, Noto, because I know we both like him, but he was another guy, just quick note in that match play, 1 putt away, right, from continuing this thing on and then likely getting to the next round. He'd already beat Hovland. So I expected that. Tringali, love him. Think he's a great play at 17%. We talk about staying up on board all the time. Noto surprisingly still has him tagged up as well. So we're falling in line there. I like Charlie Hoffman, even with the chalk, 14 for 14 made cuts. He's already pumped. He was posting stuff on Instagram and, just about being back here. So this is where he gets hot heading into the Masters and to become the first round leader, the classic joke. And then after that, I really like the 8K range. We're not there yet. So I'll leave you with those 3 for me in the 9K range.
All right, Noto, I know you like some of those guys in there, so I'll let you have a crack at it.
Yeah, I think Tambo hit my top 3 as well. You got Answer, who's been playing really well. Obviously should have advanced out of the group stage. Just blew his match against Hovland and then missed a 4-footer on the playoff hole. But I'm not tilted at all by that. Anyway, the 2 events before that gained 7 strokes tee to green, 8.6 strokes tee to green. He lives in San Antonio. He's played here 3 times, never missed a cut. So I do like Answer quite a bit. Tringali, for all the reasons that Tambo mentioned, just playing great. He's longer off the tee than you expect. He's top 10 in this field in approach, birdie or better, and bogey avoidance, which is a pretty good combo. I like the Hoffman call, just top 10 machine at this event in the past. And I would honestly not hesitate to go overweight on some of the other guys. I mean, Corey Connors, obviously a great course fit, won here in 2019. Ryan Palmer with the Texas narrative, pretty good course history. Brendan Still's been playing great. He's never missed a cut here, I believe. He's 8 of 9 here. So just so many good plays in this range, which is why I don't love the 10Ks.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a perfectly reasonable take. And I also think you get a lot of people doing that. We've got 18% ownership on Scheffler. We've got 23% on Spieth. We've got 22% on Finau. Like, I think all of those numbers are too high. I think you're going to see a lot of people start in the 9Ks with Answer, with Connors, with Palmer, with Tringali, with Hoffman, with Steele. There's plenty of reasons to play any of those guys. And I think that is going to keep ownership down on the 10K plus golfers. So we'll see where it trends. I certainly don't think with all the steam building behind the Scheffler fatigue narrative and playing in that wind on Sunday and 36 holes, like, I don't think he's going to get to 18%, but could be wrong. It's early yet. But Tambo, any other thoughts on the 9Ks for you?
No, I would agree with what you just said. That's certainly what I'll be digging into tomorrow night as well. Sort of looking at the combinations of what people are probably doing and then what maybe we can do a little bit different to build around that. But I don't hate what you just said. I think the Scheffler thing could ring true. And I think just mixing and matching some of these 9K guys and seeing what that looks like and be able to get a little bit of leverage in certain spots, right? If, certain guys you can go with or certain builds that you can utilize, you can play a little chalk up there and then go unique at the bottom. So there's lots of ways to go about it here. We always talk about fading some of the chalk in the value range. Just don't play Answer, Tringali, Hoffman, and then a bunch of the chalk values, right? You can use those guys and then mix it up completely at the bottom if you want. There's a lot of ways to go about it here in this range. So I like the 8K range though coming up, definitely.
Yeah. Interesting spots here. I have tagged up Palmer and Steele as my GPP options. I certainly think the other guys are fine and maybe a little bit safer in cash games, but GPPs, feel free to go with really anybody in this range other than Kuchar, who feels overpriced at 9K, and he also played a lot of golf last week. So he would be the one guy that I am not on. Noto, you want to start breaking down the 8Ks? I'll let you go first there.
Yeah, a lot less interest in this range for me. I do like Chris Kirk a lot, though. He's been playing some pretty good golf recently. Did miss the cut at the Waste Management, but other than that, he's gained at least 4 strokes tee to green. 6 of his last 7 events. He's getting it done pretty much all facets, gaining strokes off the tee, on approach, around the green. On the green, he's got 3 top 15s at this event in the past. So love the spot for Kirk. Does look like he's going to be pretty popular. Everyone else, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with Cam Davis. Obviously, a great birdie maker, great ball striker. That should play well in the wind. Pretty good putter as well. So if he can keep it together around the green, I think he's interesting. Keegan's just been running red hot with the short game. That scares me. Zach Johnson, he's always fine, but not a guy that I'm like looking to target. Everyone else, yeah, I mean, Joel Dahman coming off the big win. He's probably going to be hungover Thursday morning. Ricky Fowler, so much pressure on him right now. Hard to see him, getting the win and getting it back into the Masters. So not a lot of interest for me. I do like Sam Burns, though. Good ball striker, great birdie maker, coming off of back-to-back missed cuts, which hopefully will keep the ownership at around 15%. If he was in a little better form, I would expect him to be more popular.
Yeah, he'd definitely be more popular if the form was better. He crashed out in amazing fashion at the Players, but at 8K in this field does seem a bit cheap. I'm kind of with you. I don't love this range a whole lot. Zach Johnson and Keegan as massive chalk. Leno Griffin, right? He's not under 7K. He's 8,700. That you can't play him there. Siwoo Kim, his form has faded a bit. He's expensive. So, Tambo, you mentioned you like some guys in this range. Who are you higher on than we are?
This is crazy, man. This is Siwoo Kim just came 9th at the Players. I mean, this is the range I like. And so stats wise, I got Siwoo. I got Cam Davis. I'll talk about Zach. Leno for sure. Chris Kirk. Funny enough, for once, I don't love the chalk, and it's in this range. I don't love Zach Johnson or Keegan Bradley, but Hadwin, I'll talk about in a second. Ricky Fowler, the motivation, I'll just play him because if I'm playing Spieth at 10-7, I'm going to play Ricky Fowler at 81 in this field. Just one last shot. And the only reason that's a little bit of a bias, but we talked about this in the past, Ian Poulter off the points mistake, needing the win at the Shell Houston Open to get into the Masters was when I had my biggest DFS week ever. So, hey, let's run it back one time with my ex-favorite golfer, Ricky Fowler. I've since moved on to his guy, JT, but I still got a little love for Ricky. So there's that. I like your guys that, you mentioned at the bottom, Burns. Wise was just in the hunt, but just the couples that'll tag up here. So Siwoo, I talked about it stats-wise, just incredible across the board. Some of the comp courses or situations people, I've talked about here, like the Amex or places like that, he's shown up at, and then just coming off that at the Players, he's 8,900. He's got upside. And this is also too, maybe why you guys don't like this range as much. And I love it is because these are guys that are very scary to play, but they have immense upside if they do get through. So maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow night about not playing all these guys in the same lineup, but Cam Davis, love him. Can't talk about him enough. All the time we talk about Cam Davis, if he makes the cut, and I used this with Kenny yesterday, him and Matt Kuchar, 9K and 8,800. I think they're just the same pretty much. Like you said, Kuchar played a bunch of golf last week, but who's going to have more upside? And we'll talk about that with Furyk and the mistakes that I've made with him in the past later on. I think you guys like him a little, but using 2 more things. Leno Griffin, 35th, 21st, 22nd, 26th, and 7th. This one excites me too, because he's doing this in the Farmers, the Genesis, a WGC event, the Players and the API. These are much stronger fields, much tougher courses that people just think of his price being too high now at 8,700. He's dialed in. And then the last one's in the spirit of time. Adam Hadwin is going to be an interesting play. It is Canadian. It is Team Canada week. We'll get to that throughout the show. Some hints there, but Connors, some of the other guys we'll mention later, Connors was the winner here in 2019, and some of the other guys that we'll talk about that pop up, but surprisingly enough, 8th at the Honda, 29th at the Players, 26th at the Genesis, 50th at the Waste Management, 18th at the Farmers, and 32nd at the Amex. 7 of his last 8 cuts for Adam Hadwin. Nobody's going to play him, and he's sitting right there at an $8,300 price tag. I think he's got a lot of upside and could be a good tournament play to round out this range.
I don't hate that call. Siwoo Kim is interesting. You mentioned 9th at the Players, but before that, I mean, it was 4 missed cuts and a 50th sandwiched around his win at the American Express. So I guess that's a full Siwoo Kim experience. First 4 missed cuts and a 50th, and then 9th. But the upside is there certainly.
So,
and
yeah, the sidebar on that is the win was at the Amex, which I'm taking seriously in comparison to comp course. And a lot of guys that we like here and show up here have done well at that track, as well as the Waste Management Phoenix Open where he made the cut, and then the Players he won. So that's a little bit. You got more, Noto?
My only concern is both his recent finishes that were good were Pga courses. I mean, he has truly turned into a Pga specialist. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's definitely known for that. And again, it's part of the play there. It's, I guess, you like I said, not everyone's playing a Kuchar there, but at the same price tags, it's the same. Where he's fitting in isn't really that crazy when you think about it. I think a lot of people will just naturally go to a guy like Steele, who you mentioned, or even Hoffman, who we like already, but you've got Siwoo, who won the Amex and just top 10 the Players. So like Card said, it is the full Siwoo experience. Not necessarily one you have to jump on board for. You got Cam Davis right below him there at the same thing, or Leno Griffin, probably a lot safer.
All right. Other thoughts on that 8K range for you, Noto? Otherwise, you can head into the 7Ks if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too interested in Hadwin, but Tambo made a good case for him, so I might have to get a little bit of exposure to him. As far as the 7Ks, the upper 7Ks, I like Harold Varner. Seems like every time he's not popular, he kind of plays well. He's a good ball striker. His around the green game has really improved. He's 12th in my model over the last 75 rounds. Not a guy that I think of that has a good short game, but I think that will come in handy this week. Ryan Moore's got the great course history. I might have to get just a little bit. He hasn't been playing a lot of golf, hasn't been playing very good golf, but maybe he's found something at this course. Moving down, I like Sebastian Munoz. I kind of put him in the same category as Leno Griffin. They just seem like they're like the same type of player where they can both gain strokes in all facets. And, he's a lot cheaper and he's going to be lower owned. So I'll have some Sebastian Munoz. And then got to always have a few shares of EVR, Eric Van Rooyen. Just continues to play well. Although this doesn't fit the WGC major narrative. So maybe
we knew he was getting out of that group though. No, at least getting out of the group. We had that pegged.
Maybe I'll have to take that one back.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you get to this range, because once we start to get below 8K, if you look at like 7,900 to 7,400, we don't have anybody pegged in double digits in terms of ownership. So it basically starts to become play who you want. But if you make 1 or 2 good picks in this kind of high end of the 7K range, it could really make or break your lineup. So EVR will be one of them at 4%. Tambo, you got some favorites in there?
I do have a few. I think that's what interests me a little bit more, just heading back, not to, wheel it back, but the 8K range is like, I just feel like those guys are all so much better versus normally you could say, I know they're not better than the 9K range. We already talked about that. That's why our love's there, but it does get tricky here. It's like you said, the good news is we are going to be able to plug a lot of these guys in with those 9K lineups. And again, that's what I'll look at tomorrow, but it does make it a little bit harder. I'm with Noto on Moore and Varner. I actually like Varner more. I was with you there, Noto. I think this is a great spot for him at 7,900. And you look at it, normally in this spot, he's the one getting the 15 or 20% ownership at this price point, but maybe people are just kind of done with him. And at 7,900, he does really stand out for me. Munoz, they joked and called, or Spieth called Matt Kuchar the smiling assassin at the match play event. And I find that Sebastian Munoz is like that. Guys like him, Ortiz, you mentioned Lento, who's another Leno Griffin, another good comparison there. But these are guys that, again, he's like a cheaper Cam Davis even too. right? You think about the same type of game. They can both go off. They can both get to the top of this tournament, and they can both score a lot of DraftKings points while doing it. Putnam lines up there nicely. I think, let me see the ownership here right quick. Johnny, a couple guys here. Johnny Huh, I think these are the chalk. Maybe not so much. Johnny Huh and Doug Gim, though, and Doug's my favorite there. These are just two guys that are chugging along, making every cut, playing some great golf. And I know people see Sam Ryder over at the Corrales last week and Vegas almost winning a couple weeks ago himself at the Puerto Rico Open and stuff. But I won't make you say that one today, Cards. I already took it away from you there with Johnny V. But I like Gim and I like Huh to round out sort of that bottom range. There is other guys, but, just without going through all of them, those are some of the ones that stand out for me.
Yeah, I played Johnny Vegas some last week in the Corrales, and it just sometimes you gotta play a little Johnny Vegas. I'm not on him this week though.
Okay.
This again, you basically named most of the options I think that people will be looking at. I don't think you'll have a lot of people that kind of look at the Corrales numbers last week, maybe outside. I mean, people kind of know Damon won, but otherwise, people didn't probably follow that event as much as the match play. So you can get some guys who maybe played fairly well last week at lower ownership than you otherwise would for players who are coming off a good finish. So just some general food for thought there. Noto, anything else above 7,000 that you're looking at this week?
I did write up John Huh, Johnny question mark, like Tambo mentioned. He's just been playing really well. He actually took a full 7 months off once COVID hit. He's made 9 of his last 10 cuts, been playing well. Really strong tee to green his last time out. Decent course history too. It's been up and down, but he's got some high finishes. Denny McCarthy, the putting god, always worth a look just because he makes so many birdies. Lucas Glover coming off of a nice finish. I like the Doug Gim call. I think he went to school in Texas, so you can certainly play that narrative. And then Matthew Neesmith, number 1 in this field in strokes gained approach. It could easily go poorly if he doesn't hit greens, but you got to like that with the wind. Good ball strikers that know how to fight their ball down and stuff.
All right. Don't forget, we usually play a little game as far as our favorite value pick goes, and we will do that here on the show. Pick the one golfer that all three of us before the show agreed on below 7,000 on DraftKings that we like as a value this week. Not necessarily, under 2% owned or anything this week. A player that will be on the radar for some, but who do we all agree on below 7K? First person to guess that here before we get off the air, we will get you a free week of Rotogrinders Premium. We'll give everybody just a couple of guesses, and then we'll maybe give out a hint if nobody gets it. So I'll have to make sure that we don't talk about said player before somebody actually guesses it. But again, under 7K on DraftKings, one of our favorite values of the week. But Tambo, anything else above 7,000 for you before we move into the punts?
Because I don't have a lot of 6Ks to name, I will name just a few more. One I want to bring up was Benny On. I forgot about him. If we talk about Corey Connors winning this thing in 2019, again, not going to have the form that you're looking for, but what he does have is he's usually a pretty good ball striker. Let's hope for that. It's a weaker field than we've seen him in usually. Some have used even the Wyndham or Sedgefield course to be able to compare to here where he did quite well at in the past. And then also really good around the green game. So if they're already missing greens anyway, like Noto talked about, you can alleviate some of that need for the putter. That really lines him up quite nicely where I don't think anybody will be on him really. Sepp Straka did play well last week. If you were following the Corrales, I know you were, Cards, is, really bombed away the last 3 or 4 holes there. But other than that, a great week for him, a great play at the Amex, which I'm utilizing some here. Adam Long, we've been following along. Neesmith, I'm with you, Noto. And then I want to ask Noto one quick question because he's the whisperer. But Harry Higgs, 7,100. I believe he's got some good stuff coming in here. What are your thoughts on your guy, Harry Higgs, before we go to the 6K range? Strong on Bermuda, 19th at the Honda, 29th at the Players.
I'm going to need the backstory before Noto gives his opinion. I need the backstory on this. I think you guys talked about it on one of the Wednesday shows, was where this Harry Higgs love came from. And then maybe he played well. I don't know. I need the backstory.
Does Noto even know? Because he probably just thinks I'm just making stuff up like usual. But Harry Higgs is your boy, right?
I mean, I like him, but I don't know. I don't remember.
I believe it was a run on during the COVID shutdown or not the COVID shutdown. Sorry, just after that, when he was utilized in your showdown articles, like every single week. He was like your play was Harry Higgs in every day in succession. So everyone's like, oh, play the Harry Higgs play again.
Yeah,
so yeah, you were the Harry Higgs guy, and it seemed to work quite often. So I was with you on it. I like him, but I do think he's an interesting play this week in a range again where people aren't really touching this up much. And there's Neesmith and him right there. You could even use them both in the same lineup. I think they'd be fine.
Yeah, really like Higgs. Went to SMU, so very familiar with Texas golf. And yeah, he's been playing well, back-to-back top 30s. So I like that quite a bit.
Right on. Let's use him.
All right. Higgs is the who are your guys' first pass, by the way? If you had to pick one or two players that you'd have to bet at the Masters before the odds really start shifting in the next couple weeks. I like Bubba at 40-1, always a track he plays well at, and he played pretty well at the match play last week. So Bubba's one of my guys. You guys got favorite early bets for the Masters?
Go ahead, Noto. I got a couple here. I'm just pulling them up. I know mine. I just want to see what
I made 3 when I went to Vegas a while ago. I bet Bryson, Finau. Finau's going to get his first big win.
What'd you bet? What'd you get Finau at? Because I got Finau too. What's your number?
I don't know. I just have it in my wallet on a little piece of paper up there. I haven't looked at it for a few months. So I have those 2 and then Cantlay.
Yeah, those 2 of the 2 that I got are Cantlay and Finau right now.
So I wish I would have gotten Spieth. I was tempted, and then I was just like, he's not going to turn it around.
I remember I laughed at you last week about Spieth too, but hey, you never know. You never know what's going to happen with Spieth, man. I think he's, I think this week, wasn't his number this week pretty similar to what he is for next week? Like you could bet him in this field at a decent number. Before DJ went out, at least. I thought he was like 18 or 17.
I think it's like 14 now.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dig into the values. I got to hand it to our man, Jim Steele, always checking us out and watching our content. We appreciate it. And he took his 2 guesses to get the value golfer of the week and got it right. So kudos to him. He did go with the Canada angle. Tambo hinted at it earlier. But he got it right with the second guess. So kudos to Jim on that. But Roger Sloane is the winner, and I'm impressed. You know, it took the previous weeks. It took us a lot of guesses for somebody to get the winner. So kudos on the Roger Sloane guess, and you are the winner. But all right, Tambo, Canada proud, Roger Sloane. Talk about him and your favorite punts this week.
Yeah, I do like Sloane again. If you're following it last week, there's him and another Canadian as well, Vincent Whaley, that I like. So those are the 2 main Canadians down here that I was interested in. Is Roger Sloane, just like I said, you looked last week, he had a pretty good week in front of him. Actually 3 of them. Where's he at here? Michael Lidgick was another guy. If you were following over there overseas,
he played pretty well.
He played well, and this guy's not in the field, but it was an interesting tidbit that went with that. Was Adam Svensson, another Canadian, won on the Corn Ferry Tour last week. We've seen him in these tournaments a little bit. But he was the first Canadian Corn Ferry Tour winner since Michael Lidgick. So a little bit of hype there. So Lidgick's at 62, and then Vincent Whaley at 6,100. This guy's on a little bit of a run. 15th, the Puerto Rico Open, 36th at the Honda. Pretty nice stats across the board. And then a 28th at the Corrales last week, but had himself a pretty good Sunday, if I recall. I looked at it the other day, and I think it was, what did he have here, man? I can't remember.
Whaley or somebody else?
I was thinking of Whaley. Not Canadian, but I just was looking at him. He actually missed the cut there. So I don't know what I was thinking of with him there, but 28th. Who was I going with then? Like I said, sometimes I make some stuff up, but I was looking at his stuff, and the numbers are good. And I know that from doing my showdown show on Sundays that I've been following him quite a bit. And at 6,100, the 2 Canadians were Lidgick and Sloane that I was talking about. But 28th at the Corrales. Yeah, that's odd. Vincent Whaley, and that's not the case at all. So, interesting. Yeah, 6,100, I'll still play him, but mainly because it's Puerto Rico Open as Honda, not his Corrales finish.
All right, Noto, you got any punts this week? And then I will offer up a couple of my favorites.
Yeah, so if you like top 35 finishes, you got Jim Furyk. If you like top 55 finishes, you got Adam Schenk. Other than that, I mean, not all that much. I think I had a couple here. So Doc Redman, he has missed 4 of his last 5 cuts, and every single time he's missed a cut, it's been on the number. We know he's a good ball striker.
All 4?
Yeah, all 4.
Interesting. I did not know that.
And he's gained strokes, ball striking in 3 of those 5. So I think he's close to turn it around.
I'm going to play him now because of that. And that now it feels like that's only destined to go one way. But if I don't play him, he's going to play well.
Yeah, I like Scott Stallings a little bit. Some good course history. He is a guy that can get hot with his irons. Is this Danny Lee's home course, or is that a different one? One's Ryan Palmer's and one's Danny Lee's in Texas. I always get him confused.
I think it's Lee's because I don't think it's Palmer's. I forget what one is his, but I do think you're right about that.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I might have a little bit of him. And then down at 6,200, I'll have a little bit of Troy Merritt. Played pretty well last week. One of the better ball strikers in terms of the old school. I do the old school things when we don't have shot link data where you look at fairways and driving distance and greens regulation. He was right there near the top. So I have a few shares of him as well.
Yeah. One more thing there, Cards. It was a case of too many tab syndrome. He definitely did finish 28th, Vincent Whaley, at the Corrales. And the reason I brought that up, and I had to go back and make sure that I wasn't just making things up, was you saw Joel Damon get the win. Campos, the heartbreaking putt there. It was, sad to see for him, but very windy Sunday. And Whaley put up a 70, which is pretty solid for that. And now if we are getting the wind here this week, just coming off of that, and then the other 2 finishes that I talked about and the stats that go with it, I actually think he is pretty interesting down at 6,100.
A couple of mine, Grayson Sigg is a guy who's on my radar. Again, this is kind of just a glorified Korn Ferry Tour field, if you will, maybe a little stronger than that. That's a bit harsh, but he did finish 9th at the Corrales last week, steadily improving rounds as he went, and I believe is top 8 or so on the Korn Ferry Tour money list, and potentially one of the next kind of up and comers, 8 top 10s on the Korn Ferry Tour and plus last week on the PGA Tour this year. So don't mind him at 6,800, and we've got him at 2% ownership. So I think it'll rise a little bit higher than that, but solid value there. I don't mind Furyk. I kind of with Noto there. Mentioned with Tambo on the Wednesday show a few weeks ago how I was fading Furyk in GPPs when the week he was popular and going to be about 16 to 18% owned. This week we've got him at 6. So I think this is a spot where you can look to Mr. Furyk to get that aforementioned 35th place finish that Derek talked about, which that's fine from somebody rounding out your roster.
I don't even know if he can do that anymore. That's why I said earlier, like I'm struggling with that. And I think you guys liked him, but like, what does he get you here? I want to look back at his numbers and just see real quick, but like
he had a couple top 30s in Cali.
He had a couple top 20s there. Yeah, I guess so. Top 26, 21st. But before that, it was like 123rd way back in 2019, a 17th back then. And like, geez, man, the Players was obviously the big deal, but this guy just never does anything when I play him. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll talk about it tomorrow. What
are you guys doing with Kevin Chappell? He might get double-digit ownership.
Not playing him.
Wild.
I mean, is that just a course history thing or what?
Yeah, I mean, he had a good finish at the Honda. It was all short game. He's lost strokes tee to green in 13 of 16 events. He's just getting talked up by all the shows this week. Kind of surprised me to see his ownership that high.
That's what Kenny brought up. I said the only Kevin story I remember from here, because I forgot even one year, was the Kevin Na 16 in the woods looking for his ball back when I think it was like 2011 or 12, just putting up a 16 at a PGA course. That's pretty incredible when there's really no water involved or anything. So yeah, that's wild. But yeah, not really interested in Kevin Chappell. I like your Troy Merritt call. The only other guy that I was going to, by the way, I said it last week on this very show that Fratelli would burn me after being all in on him at 8,200 the week before, pretty much. Not all in, but quite heavy. This is my time to go back to Bo Hoag. Basically, you look at the numbers. He's Neesmith for 6,400. So you can save $700 if you don't want to, or you can play them both together, but they have the same game, fairways, avoiding bogeys. Maybe there's a little bit more upside there ability, but at 6,400. And then you mentioned Danny Lee probably sold me on that, even if it's not his home course. I like Danny Lee. We like him in Texas. Trains with Gankus, the same guy that has the Matthew Wolf swing perfection out there. So I think that's an interesting call as well at 6,500. No one's really going to be on him.
So there are playable options in this range, but you don't want to be going, full on stars and scrubs with, 3 10K plus guys and, 3 6Ks. It doesn't make sense this week. And it's part of why I think the top range will maybe be a little bit lower owned than how we originally have it projected, but we shall see. So any other thoughts from you guys before we call it a week?
I got a prop bet for you guys.
Okay.
Oh, and then we got Jim's got a question in the chat too, so I'll throw that out to you guys. But go ahead, Noto.
All right. Does the winner of this event, is he already in the Masters, or is it a guy that punches his ticket?
Go ahead, Cards.
Oh, that's a good question. I'll say somebody punches their ticket just for fun, even though the person that I picked to win probably is already in.
I'm with you. It's a ticket puncher event here in general. So it's been that.
I mean, I wish do you know how many players that are in this field are qualified next week without going one by one, or is that? I mean, sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's not that. I don't think it's that hard to go when you look down the board. But I mean, there's got to be what, less than 10.
Oh, I'd say it's
maybe just over. Actually, yeah, I'm seeing a couple more names here. So yeah, I don't know. It's enough chances though. There's way more opportunity if someone. The odds are way higher that we get a ticket puncher.
Well, here's the guys that are in the Masters field that are in this week's field. Answer is in the field. That's 1. Connors is 2. Finau is 3. Let's see. Lanto is 4. Spieth is 5.
Matsuyama.
Zach Johnson 6.
Willett.
Matsuyama 7. Siwoo is 8.
Willett, Noto said.
Willett is 9.
Does Hoffman need to win to get the first round leader next week?
Hoffman's not in.
Win.
Oh, even more reason to play him.
That's 9. Palmer is 10, and I think I picked Palmer to win, so that's why. Yeah, I did. So that's why I'm. Scheffler is 11. Spieth we've already got. I'm going alphabet. Matt Wallace is 12. Willett we've already got. It's 12. Plus or minus 1 for my potential error in looking through that quickly, but I think it's 12. So the odds say it's going to be somebody punching their ticket, unless one of the top 4 or 5 favorites.
How else is it? It has to be a ticket puncher if Ricky Fowler's getting in. Right?
Yeah,
you got to see it. So we'll wait and see. And yeah, you should ask Noto that question. It's his. This I feel like he's the Akshay whisperer as well. Even though I'm
so that was Jim's question in chat. Akshay Bhatia. We've actually got him at 4% ownership, so he's getting a little buzz out there, and we've seen him play in spurts on the PGA Tour. There was that one event. Was that the AT&T? Yeah. He finished 30th and had that first round leader, I believe, in that event. Played in Mayakoba and did all right as well. So, Noto, any thoughts there?
Love the talent. I think he needs some time, obviously. I think he's just one of those guys you play in Showdown because it's going to be hard for him to string together 4 really good rounds. But he's cheap, so I don't hate it.
Yeah, he's only 19, so plenty of room to grow as the years go on. But would be nice to see him play well for sure.
One quick thing on it. I guess I said I wouldn't chime in, but I went and looked him up just to find something. And I've used this. I mentioned at the top that Safeway and Silverado is a course that's been considered comparable here. And you go back and look, Akshay Bhatia, 9th place with a 16 under score that he put up. And the winner was Stewie Sink. So are we going to have a Furyk wins? Get your Furyk Akshay lineups in the mix and you'll get yourself a winner in a top 10. And Doc Redman's in there. Sam Burns, Harry Higgs is in there. Like, look, these are all the guys, man. So maybe that's the way to go here. Michael Lidgick in 14th, if you want to compare this course. And the list goes on. Doug Gim, I'll stop. But there you go. So maybe he is a play here.
All right. With that, we'll call it a show here for this week. As always, it's been a blast, and we appreciate you checking us out or downloading us and listening on the podcast feed. Plenty of ways to digest the show. And anybody who hung out with us live, we appreciate it. And thank you for watching. So have a great week. We'll be back here next week. Tell your friends, if you're downloading us and watching us later, tell your friends, hey, check us out for the Masters. It's free. You don't have to be a premium subscriber to watch this show. So we will be back next week, hopefully with a lot of interaction and live Q&A, and we'll take everything we can for the Masters. Should be a lot of fun. And we'll see you next Tuesday with that. So for Tambo and Noto and our producer, Devin, I am Justin. Have a great week, everybody. Take care, and we will talk to you later.